This is the Eddsworld House. It's a yellow building with a red roof, red curtains, a window either side of a wooden door, and sometimes it has a second story. This is what the house is meant to look like, but for such an important setting, the house has changed a lot over the years. Can you name the episode where Edd was living in this funny townhouse? Do you remember the time that Tom was living in his own apartment building? Do the boys own an outdoor swimming pool? What about an indoor swimming pool? Let's go through the complete history of the Eddsworld House. So in the very early episodes, the boys didn't live together at all. Edd 2003 and Edd Again were semi-autobiographical stories about a 14-year-old boy. Edd was presumably living with his family in these videos, but they don't really count. For Eddsworld proper, you might remember Eddsworld HQ as the home of all the action. The early Christmas specials, Eddsworld BTS, and some early illustrations featured this big office building with the red EW logo on the front. In universe, this is where all of the Eddsworld productions are made, from the cartoon to the comics. This building was destined to be a relic of the Newgrounds era, but at the start of Beyond, it saw a bit of a revival. It was the setting of fan service 2, where they painted the logo from red to green. It was the setting of Casting Call, with the ever-changing exterior shots making up a pretty fantastic running gag. And though I don't think the name Eddsworld HQ is used anywhere in universe, check out the username of the official Eddsworld TikTok. If that doesn't conjure up images of the old skyscraper, then I don't know what will. For the next few years, the boys lived literally wherever they liked. In the dudette next door, Tord and Edd are living together and their house looks almost perfect. It's actually kind of impressive that Edd designed this yellowish house with a red roof in the second proper Eddsworld episode, and the design language remained basically unchanged for like 2 decades. It's not quite the same house though. There are 2 large windows on the right of the door and a third smaller window on the left. They also have an outdoor swimming pool, a feature that doesn't exist in any other episode. I think they moved all the water into Tom's bedroom. In Tord's adventure, the boys are living separately again. We don't get a good look at Tord's house or Tom's house, but Edd's house looks like a gothic mansion when framed in silhouette. It's also located on Edd's Road, and while that is not a real postcode, the first 4 characters would place Edd's Road in London, making this the first time we get confirmation that Edd lives in London. I think my 2 favourite weird houses are in This World of Edd, which looks like a standard British terraced house, and Breakfast. This house is blue and it's in the middle of nowhere. Seriously, I have no idea what's going on with this episode. Now, what's up with the zombie episodes? Zombie Nation seems a little bit more accurate, but look, the front of the house only has 1 window. As for Zombie Attack, the first episode doesn't feature any houses at all, but in the second one, Edd is living in this place. The front of the house kind of sticks forward, giving the whole building an L shape. And of course, that brings us to Tom's apartment. While Edd and Tord were often living together and Matt was... Actually, we've never seen Matt living alone. Tom had a flat to himself in Tord's adventure and the 2 Zombie Attack episodes. You'd think that this was another fluke of the Newgrounds era, but they might have called back to this place in a future episode. In What the Future, Tom tells a story about being evicted from his apartment. He says that his landlord found a skeleton in his home, assumed that it was Tom's body, and started renting the flat to somebody else by the time he got back. I always liked this joke. It passes by so quickly that you hardly register that Tom was apparently living in an apartment building once upon a time. And why was there a dead body in Tom's flat? Surely Tom didn't kill a man. Well, yeah, actually, he did. Tord's ghost visited Tom in Zombie Attack 3, and when he did so, Tom shot Tord in the face and left the skeleton where it was. If that's the skeleton that got Tom evicted, that would mean that What the Future takes place in the Zombie Attack universe, the one where all of the characters die at the end. Truth be told, I could make a massive video about how the skeleton in Tom's closet proves that there are multiple timelines that could be explained by time travel. Then you could track the motivations and characterizations of different characters across those timelines, but I'm not gonna do that. I just think this is a fun callback that, in all honesty, I didn't work out on my own. I was browsing the Eddsworld wiki when I first came up with this video idea, and on the page about Edd's house, it makes the connection that I never thought to make. So for the $1 million question, what was the first video to feature an accurate, modern depiction of the Eddsworld house? I'll give you a second to come up with the answer yourself. I personally thought the answer was Ruined, but in that video you only see the back of the house. No, the first fully accurate shot at the front of the house was in Santa Claus 1. The colours are a little saturated, but we got that double window, red roof, yellow building with a walkway leading to a wooden door. For my money, this is the Eddsworld bungalow in its final form. There was still a little bit of experimentation for a while. Money, That's What I Want is a fantasy with a mansion on a hill, and Spares has a weird shot where the back of the house is grey for some reason. But for the rest of the episode, and basically the rest of the series, the house has stuck with the design that we know and love. Moving targets, 25 feet, Matt Sucks, What the Future, all feature the classic one-floor house. Honestly, I thought there was a garage in What the Future, but nope, the cars just come right out of the wall. Honestly, that's kinda funny. Also, Rock Bottom isn't an Eddsworld video, but Ed and Tom live in a house that's weirdly similar to the Eddsworld house, and it has a garage. What a weird video this is. If there's any episode where the house is the main character, it would be Hammer and Fail. The boys spend the entire episode making their own loft conversion, and it ends up looking like this. Where did they get a camel? So yeah, Ed orders an extension from InstaRoof, revealing the address to be 27 Durham Lane, and you'll see that address come up again in Funded, and Matt gets the mail. Fun fact, 27 was also Tom's apartment number when he was living alone, and the number 27 is Thomas Ridgewell's lucky number, as he was born on the 27th of June on his mother's 27th birthday. When InstaRoof comes, they give us the iconic house in its final design, making Ed's place the envy of the whole neighborhood. Oh yeah, the neighbors also make their first appearance in this episode. Their house is identical to the classic house except with more green, and it never gets that loft extension, only a big old satellite on the roof. I do appreciate that they kept the geography of the street intact. Presumably Kim and Katia are still living next door in their house to the right, like they didn't do that next door, but we never ever saw the house on the left until now. It's nice that Ed probably thought about this stuff when writing the story. Also, Kim and Katia are living next to an airport in the end. What happened to their house on Durham Lane? Oh yeah, of course, if there is another episode where the house is the main character, it's the end. We do get a glimpse of the floor plan, but unless I'm mistaken, the plan is complete gibberish. Why is the bathroom right next to the front door? And where are the bedrooms? They're not upstairs, that's the empty attic. Yeah, the layout of the house never made any sense. That could be its own video. We also see that there's a giant robot under the house. I guess Tord cleared out those ancient ruins and pipes to Atlantis, and then the house is blown up by one of Tord's rockets. Side note, isn't this a weird shot? I always thought it was Tom's POV from the front door, but the house is right there. Then in this shot, the house looks tiny. Looks more like a big shed. Ever since the house was left in ruins following Tord's attack, the boys have been living in separate apartments in the same building. Matt's place is a shrine to himself, Tom has a really sweet bachelor pad, and Ed's place is messy and colourful, filled with references to previous videos. I think it's really sweet that while the guys don't technically live together anymore, they all live in the same building, and by the looks of things, they're all on the same floor. That's just kinda cute. And that's what's going on with the Eddsworld house. It's currently sitting in ruins in the middle of Durham Lane, while Ed, Matt and Tom are living in their own separate— hang on a second, that's the house. And that's the house too. So, as you might have noticed, the Eddsworld shorts take place mostly in the house. Same goes for Tales of Terror. They even live right next door to Eduardo and Mark, so presumably the neighbour's house is perfectly fine as well. If there is any Eddsworld lore at all, the shorts are basically non-canon, so they aren't bound by anything that came before and won't determine anything that comes afterwards. They can set these shorts in the house because nothing here really matters. There are no giant birds or light bulb portals or magic mirrors in the real Eddsworld universe. Okay, there is one magic mirror in the real Eddsworld universe, but it doesn't eat people. While they could set the shorts wherever they like, New Year, New You takes place in Ed's flat for instance, it's probably going to be the bog standard house that most people are familiar with. Same goes for the comics. Those have been established as non-canon plenty of times, so in that universe, the house never died and lives on as the setting for almost every installment. Maybe the boys will keep on living in that apartment building and that's fine by me. They were living somewhere before the Eddsworld house, they'll always have a place to live going forward. But let's all take a second to remember that good old building. site of massacres, ancient ruins, Atlantis portals, and secret bases. You really are iconic for a reason.